people say they hate AI. But that's not really true. They hate AI art, then use AI to write their code. They hate AI writing, then generate images with it. They hate AI videos, then use AI to clean up their audio, draft their emails, write their scripts, or automate the boring parts of their job. The same person who posts an angry thread about AI replacing artists is using AI to plan their vacation. So maybe people don't actually hate AI. Maybe they hate AI when it walks into their room. And that distinction between AI over there and AI in here tells us almost everything about why this conversation gets so heated so fast. Not all AI hate is the same. There are different groups, each angry for a different reason. And if you understand the groups, the whole thing starts to make a lot more sense. There's the threatened worker. Someone who has spent years building a valuable skill, writing, designing, coding, illustrating, voicing characters, composing music, and who now watches a machine produce something similar in seconds for almost nothing. The fear isn't just about losing income, it's about losing the reason they were needed in the first place. A 2024 Pew Research survey found that 64% of American adults expect AI to reduce the number of available jobs over the next 20 years. That's not a fringe fear. That's a majority view. Then there's the artist. This one runs deeper than economics. When AI image generators emerged, over 6,000 artists and designers signed a public letter calling the practice mass theft. The complaint wasn't just that AI could make pictures. It was that AI had learned to make pictures by consuming billions of images scraped from the internet, most of them created by real people, without consent, without credit, without compensation. At least 16 lawsuits have been filed against major AI companies over this. For artists, this doesn't feel like innovation. It feels like their life's work was used as fuel for the machine that's replacing them. Then there's what you might call the authenticity defender. This person doesn't necessarily have skin in the creative game. They just hate feeling fooled. Fake images, fake voices, fake videos, AI-generated essays turned in as homework, a deepfake of a politician saying something they never said, a cloned voice scamming someone's grandmother. This group isn't opposed to technology, they're opposed to deception. And they can't always tell the difference anymore, which is exactly what bothers them. Then there's the quality skeptic. They've seen the AI slop, the six-fingered hands, the essays that technically answer the question but say absolutely nothing. The confident wrong answer delivered with total certainty. The stock image aesthetic of AI art that all starts to look the same. This person doesn't fear AI will be too good. They're annoyed it keeps getting celebrated for being mediocre. There's the moral fairness person. For them, AI is cheating. It's skipping the line, getting the grade without doing the reading, winning the contest with someone else's style. There's a deep human instinct, backed by decades of psychological research, that rewards should follow effort. When something collapses that relationship, people feel it as a kind of injustice, not just a practical problem. And then there's the control fear person. They're not reacting to any specific AI product, they're reacting to a feeling that large, opaque systems are making decisions that affect their lives, and no one quite knows how or why. They don't hate the tool, they hate the gap between the speed of the technology and the slowness of any meaningful oversight. Now, the most interesting group, the selective hater. This is the person who hates AI in their field and happily uses it somewhere else. The writer who rails against AI writing tools, but uses AI to generate images for their newsletter. The graphic designer who hates Midjourney, but uses ChatGPT to draft client emails. The musician who refuses to touch AI music tools, but uses AI-powered plugins to master their tracks. This is often called hypocrisy. It's something more human than that. Here's the pattern underneath all of it. AI feels useful when it helps me do something I don't care about deeply. AI feels insulting when it threatens the thing I built my identity around. AI feels innovative when it disrupts someone else's industry. AI feels like theft when it walks into mine. A 2024 Pew survey found that Americans are actually fairly open to AI in certain areas: weather forecasting, medical data analysis. But when it comes to education, creativity, and work, the numbers flip. Concern takes over. Not because people think AI works worse in those areas, often because they suspect it might work just as well. And that's the thing no one wants to say out loud. The fear isn't always that AI is too bad. Sometimes the fear is that AI is just good enough to be cheap, good enough to undercut, good enough to make a client wonder why they're paying you. People often ask, what's the difference between AI and CGI? Both are artificial. Both are generated by computers. Both look like things that don't exist. Nobody seems to hate CGI the same way. The explanation is more interesting than it first appears. CGI feels like a tool in an artist's hand. AI feels like the tool learned the artist's hand. CGI still involves enormous teams of human artists. Riggers, animators, texture artists, directors making choices frame by frame. You can trace the human decisions. The craft is visible if you know where to look. AI generation compresses all of that. One person, one prompt, seconds, and the model learned by absorbing thousands of artists' actual work without asking. So the issue isn't really fake versus real, it's labor, consent, authorship, control. It's the question of whether a shortcut is acceptable when the shortcut was built out of other people's long roads. Here's something else worth thinking about. When real AI arrived, most people weren't encountering it with a blank mind. They were encountering it with 40 years of movies already loaded. Machines that become smarter than us and turn against us. Robots that look human but aren't. Systems that make decisions no one can override. Technology that starts as a tool and ends as the threat. The Terminator, The Matrix, Ex Machina, 2001, I, Robot. These stories are not documentaries, but they function like mental previews. When Google Trends tracks AI-related searches, it shows spikes every time a major AI film releases. The fiction shapes the question people bring to the fact. So when someone sees a deepfake of a politician, or a chatbot give confident medical advice, or a voice clone that sounds exactly like their child, they're not reacting to an isolated event. They're reacting to decades of accumulated narrative. The story was already running. The real product just showed up. Now, the critics deserve to be taken seriously, because a lot of the AI hate isn't paranoia. It's pattern recognition. Job displacement is real, not evenly distributed, but real. Entry-level creative work has already contracted in some industries. Survey data suggests around 30% of American workers fear their job could be replaced by something like AI within 5 years. The copyright situation is genuinely unresolved. Billions of images, books, articles, songs, and voices were used to train systems that now compete with the people who created them. That's not a conspiracy theory. That's the actual record. Deepfakes are being used for fraud, for political manipulation, for non-consensual intimate imagery. AI-generated misinformation can spread faster than corrections. Automated content is flooding platforms, lowering the average quality of everything and making it harder to find the real. These aren't science fiction concerns, they're already happening. But here's where the psychology gets complicated. People often protect the things that make them feel valuable, and then use that same technology to gain advantages in places where they don't feel as personally invested. That's not stupidity. That's humans being human. We overvalue our own effort. There's a well-documented principle in behavioral psychology, sometimes called the IKEA effect, that shows people consistently place higher value on things they built themselves, even when the result is objectively worse. The effort isn't just a means to an end. The effort is part of what makes the outcome feel like it belongs to us. When AI removes the effort, something feels like it's been taken, not just the job, the meaning. And so people draw the line at the edge of their own identity, which is why the same person can genuinely hold both positions. This is a threat to art, and also I used it to write a birthday card without feeling the contradiction. The categories are different in their mind. One touches who they are. The other is just a chore. So what's actually going on? People don't hate AI because it's artificial. They hate what AI does to the things that made being skilled feel like something. It asks uncomfortable questions. What counts as skill when a machine can pass the bar exam, write the novel, paint the portrait? What counts as effort when years of practice can be approximated in seconds? Who gets credit when the line between human input and machine output keeps moving? What happens to identity when the thing you built yourself around can be rented? These aren't anti-technology questions. They're deeply human ones, and they don't have clean answers yet. Maybe people don't hate AI because it thinks like us. Maybe they hate it because it copies the parts of us we thought made us special. And when a tool can do that, the question isn't really about the tool anymore. It's about us.